Hello, today we're going to be looking at percentage multipliers and what they do and how to use them for increase and decrease questions. Let's get started. So what is a percentage multiplier and when do we use it? So a percentage multiplier is a number, a decimal number, that is equivalent to a percentage. So for example, 12% as a decimal would be 0.12. And we would need it as a multiplier if we had a question that said 12% of 56. Now we would convert the percentage to be 0.12 as a decimal, and then we're going to multiply by 56, and that would give us 12% of 56. Let's just have a quick look at two questions that you might see this kind of thing in. Increase 48 by 17.5%. We're going to use a percentage multiplier to answer that question later on. And the other one, Mark has £250, he loses 23% of it, how much does he have now? Another question that can be answered with a decimal multiplier. Let's have a quick look at how we find the decimal multiplier. So this question says, what is the multiplier for a 23% increase? Well, if we want to increase something by 23%, that means we need the original amount, whatever that was, we don't know what that is at the moment, but we're just finding the multiplier, plus the 23%. So we want to increase the original amount by adding on 23%. So the question is, how much of the original amount is the original amount? Well, the original amount has to be 100%, doesn't it? The original amount is 100%, and then we're going to add our 23% on. So what does that equal? Well, that's 123%. Which is what as a decimal? We divide by 100, just make a note of that, divide by 100, and we're going to get 1.23, and that is our multiplier, our decimal multiplier. That's what we're aiming for at the moment. That's all we need to do. We don't need to then do the calculation, we're just finding the multiplier. The next question says, what is the multiplier for a 12% decrease? It's important that we've noted that it says decrease. So we want the original 100%, but we're decreasing by 12% this time. So we're going to subtract. So minus 12%. Hopefully you can work that out in your head. If not, you can use a calculator. That's going to be 88%. As a decimal, well, what we're going to do to work that out, we need to divide by 100, which is going to give us 0.88. Decreases tend to be below 1. Well, no, decreases will be below 1, and increases will be above 1. Because the 1, if you multiply something by 1, you would get your original amount. Now I would like you to have a go at finding the decimal multiplier for these questions. Make sure you pay careful attention to whether they are increase or decrease questions. You can go back and watch the example I did if you need to. I will just quickly tell you that the first one is 1.12. Pause now, and then I'll give you the answers in a minute. Okay, here are the answers. So 1.12 for a 12% increase, 1.13 for a 13% increase, 13% decrease is going to be 0.87, 25% decrease is going to be 0.75, 8% increase is going to be 1.08, 8% decrease is going to be 0.92, and 7.5% increase is going to be 1.07. So be careful that you didn't put 1.75 there, because it's 107.5% divided by the 100. Okay, so this is when we would actually use it in a question, an increase or decrease question. We want to increase 48 by 17.5%. So I've noted straight away it's an increase question, definitely an increase question. So we want 100% plus 17.5%. Now that's going to give me 117.5%, which is going to be 1.175 because I've divided it by 100. Now that is our multiplier, but we haven't quite finished yet. We need to use the multiplier now. So we need to do 48 times 1.175. That's why it's a multiplier, because we're going to multiply by it, which we type into our calculator and we get 56.4. That's our final answer. Let's do the next one. Mark has £250 and he loses 23% of it. How much does he have now? So is this an increase or a decrease question? It's got to be a decrease, doesn't it? He loses that money. Okay, so we're going to do 100%, take away 23%, which is going to be 77%. We need to convert that to be a multiplier, divide by 100, and that is our multiplier. What are we going to do with our multiplier? We're going to multiply by it. So we take the original amount, £250, and we're going to multiply by 0.77, and we are going to get 192.5, but we need to remember that with money, it's always 2 decimal places. Okay, and that is our final answer. Now some questions for you to have a go at yourself. Here are the questions. If you could show working for these, because you'll need to show where you got the multiplier from, and then pause now. Okay, and here are the answers. Moving on. Next lesson, we will do some practice of this topic. So make sure you watch this video carefully and ask any questions if you are unsure.